Welcome, magical women. Hexa here on Natural Witchery. Wow, okay, we are on day 10 of 13 Nights of Samhain. This feels like a challenge to me because making this many videos is a lot. But here I am, and today's question is, what does Samhain mean to you personally? And because of that, I really want to talk about the evolution of Samhain for me, like where it started for me, kind of the wheel of the year, what it's meant, the challenges, how I've grown, what I've done in the past and what I'm doing in the future. And with that in mind, I'm actually going to go over to my mic and ramble at you. So this is going to be a good one for doing your dishes or driving somewhere and listening to, like maybe while you're cleaning. Something like that. I'm just going to roll pictures of the farm from all different times. So it's not going to be, the super videography video that I like to make, but I do want to share, I want to share something real from myself, and I'm hoping that it will inspire you and get you thinking about how your craft evolves. It doesn't stay the same all the time. And how it's okay to change the way you do things and look at things different and say, that was right back then and this is right now. So I'm going to jump on that mic and dive on in. Before we jump into my thoughts about Samhain, I thought I might just give you a moment to kind of collect yourself and decide what Samhain means for you. Just, maybe even just press pause before you jump into this and kind of get your own thoughts about this before you take on mine. And these, of course, are not how-tos. These are how I. And so they're just meant to encourage or inspire or help you to define and refine your own ways of celebrating. I had heard about Samhain and even read about it in my early 20s, but it wasn't until I had my first child at 22 that I started to think, wow, I need something that I can give to my kids. Like, I think it's really important to have history, heritage, tradition to give our children as a way of grounding them in their home and feeling like a part of the family. And so, I picked up Samhain and started to make it more of a thing when my kids were little. Like, I think my youngest was maybe 3, and then I had another one when she was 4. At that point, I just believed that Samhain was on the 31st, it was All Hallows Eve, and it was really about that time when the veil was thin and our ancestors were present, and it was a time to really be present with my kids in fall crafting, and that's basically what it was. My magical practice was really, really small. It consisted of learning how to cast circles and, maybe like looking into what charms were. Of course, this was the 1990s and there wasn't a ton out there about it. Then during my Saturn return and my dark night of the soul, I actually turned towards Christianity for about a decade and dove into that. And I'm going to share with you how later on, not in this video, but later on, I'm going to share with you how my time in the church, how Christianity, particularly the Pentecostal church, made me a better witch, because it really, really did. But eventually that didn't fit for me and I came back around. And what I really dove into were kind of the wheel of the year books to kind of get me back on track. And so I just started following simple Sabbath instructions. And so Samhain became about like a night for divination and a night to sort of commune with myself and allow myself to be, just be more present with the other world. Hey there, did you know that I have a weekly newsletter that comes every Monday with witchy musings and divination tricks? Well, if you didn't, then you can sign up down below. There's a link in the description box. I also wanted to let you know that my Women Welcoming the Liminal course is going to launch on the 10th of November. It's going to be fabulous. There's still room in that course for you, and you can click the link below to sign up for that. This is a course for those of you who want to connect with the liminal, learn what that's about. I believe this is a major power source for our magic. So if you're new to the craft or you want to reinvigorate your craft, I think this is going to be a great course for that. There are so many cool things that I'm doing with this. There's a pre-course worksheet that you'll do, a Book of Shadows printout, there's the live event, and then there's a post-course teaching that will come to your inbox. If you're interested in finding out more, you can click the link below and sign up. I had always been an avid gardener. I actually majored in horticulture, and so I've been very connected to the earth, and even as a child, I was super connected to the trees in our yard and the plants. And so when I moved out here, when I got married to my now husband and moved out here to the farm, I really started to learn more about living in sync with the land. Because, I was learning about soil science and how to till. I drive a tractor, it's super fun. And so I was really learning about cycles. I was even learning about the moon even more than I ever had, like in real time, because my husband was like, oh, we don't want to plant right now. It's a waning moon. We want to wait to plant on the dark moon, all that kind of stuff. So that really pulled me into my practice even more. And then Samhain really became more meaningful because I was paying attention to what the earth was doing during this time, like just how profound the change is and what a gift it is. We call it second spring here on the farm because we kind of have a new flush of growth as things cool off and there's like a little bit of rains that come in, but then everything starts to die. And so it's this time of actually seeing that there is the dead amongst the living. And so I really started to push into Wheel of the Year books that are more about like what people were seeing in the earth around them. And that felt very natural and real. And that's when Samhain became a season for me, because I can tell the shift in that, the liminal sort of feel of the way that we're interacting with the magical thread of the earth through the shift of that season. And so there is a Samhain season, there is a Yuletide season, there's an Imbolc season. So for me, I really came into this place of I wanted to move away from being what I felt like was kind of like dogmatic, like, okay, it's the 31st. And I wanted to move into just honoring my own craft by allowing myself to just kind of drift into the season, notice when, Samhain season is starting. I can feel it. I can feel the liminal energy shift. There's a different way of interacting with my magic. I can feel it in the crackle in the air, the main sources anyway. And with that, it makes me want to kind of cozy up in my home. And for me, Imbolc season, I do like a really big spring cleaning in Imbolc and Ostara. Like the end of Imbolc and Ostara season become kind of cleanup, because around the farm here, if you don't get those jobs done, you won't be able to get them done, because suddenly everything bursts into life and the farm will roll over you. Everything is growing so quickly. But this time of the year allows me to really slow down and enjoy this cleanup that I do. And it's a spiritual cleanup. It's the type of cleanup where I'm looking back on the year and I'm seeing for myself the beauty of what has transpired over the year. And I have a chance to really look within myself. Like there's this sense of being able to sit on the inside of myself even more. And from the safety of that, like from the safety and warmth of my inner world, I have an objectivity that allows me to look at my life and see, okay, that's not working. That wasn't fruitful. That put out way too much energy and had too little return. Like that really worked. That was good, whether it's spiritual or it's in my everyday life or with my kids or relationships with people. It's just a time of deep reflection for me. And then as it grows closer and closer to Samhain, I get to this point where I realize that I'm about to make this choice to go within, to really dive deeply into the hidden mysteries. And I love this doorway, the doorway of Samhain. And for me, it varies, but it's probably really about 10 days or so before Samhain. So, honestly, right about now, maybe a couple days before. And it rolls on, forward, but it's this moment of, okay, now I'm going within. I've gotten everything in my physical environment kind of dialed in. I've cleaned stuff out. I've kind of prepped for the coming months. Like I just redid our wood pile. I'm going to clean the stove out. All these different things that I do to sort of nestle in and make it happen. And now I'm ready to really do the work. This is the season of deep workings. This is the season of opening up to my ancestors and the wisdom of my family line, my heritage, my ancestors of blood and spirit, and even my ancestors of place and the energy of the land itself and what it wants to teach me. Pretty much everything that needed to get done outside, if it hasn't gotten done, it's not going to work here on the farm. And so I give myself permission to step into the joy of personal work, of shadow work. And I have said this in other videos, but our shadow, in the darkest places of our shadow, those are the places where the most power is ready to be mined. I'll say that again. In the darkest place of your shadow, that is the place where true power is ready to be mined. With that in mind, I feel like the universe, the YO universe, is so gracious to let me know what I'm ready to be looking at. And that could come up in just situations with relationships. That could come up with dreams. That could come up in my readings, that could come up in my musings or when I'm out walking, whatever it is, the universe will present it to me. And usually what happens is I make a conscious decision to pull that thread. Okay, this has come up. I'm going to pull on this thread within myself. I'm going to pull myself down into that dark place. And I'm going to choose to really work on that. I'm going to choose to understand what's going on with me, how I need to personally refine myself, get my ego out of the way, move into forgiveness towards people, let go of insecurity, lack. Is there any kind of negative like miasma or energy that's attached itself to me this year? What kind of mindsets do I have that have allowed that to kind of take root in my life? I'm going to do a lot of really picking that apart. Like when something comes up for me, I don't just say like, oh, that came up for me, I've got to get over it. Or, oh, that came up for me and it's about them. I have to tell you, if you're having those thoughts, oh, it's really about them. And sometimes it is about them. I'm not saying that, but we all have our part. And so knowing at the places where I'm blaming other people for the lack in my life, whether it's lack of connection or, lack of money, any of those things, I really feel it's important to reclaim my power there, because if I'm blaming someone, I'm discharging my power. When we blame people, we are choosing to give our power over to a situation or a person or something else, because the pain of owning that ourselves is just too much. And I do that. I find myself blaming people, and I know that I'm in a place of disempowerment. So this is a time of reclamation for me, where I am reclaiming my power. I'm going within and seeing where things have gotten dirty and dusty, and I need to do some work. Imbolc season is really a time of self-care for kind of the outer world. And I feel like Samhain season is a time of self-care for the inner world. There's a beauty and an adventure in being kind towards myself as I take the steps inward, just one step at a time. I don't try to jump to the heart of things, but just slowly and methodically making my way deeper and deeper within to my shadows with love and kindness to do the work of healing. It's the time of healing and reclamation. So if things are coming up for you, I just want to encourage you, hey, allow yourself to be kind to yourself. Advise yourself with the kind of kindness you would give to the person you love the most in the world. And it should be you. Because the love that we give to ourselves is the love that we are capable of giving to others. And when we are giving to others beyond what we're giving to ourselves, we drain ourselves and we start living in a realm of lack that it just doesn't work. But I digress. Sorry, let's get back to Samhain. So this is a part of Samhain season for me. And this time of year is particularly difficult for me because it was in November 12 years ago. And this is 2024 when you're listening to this. So 12 years ago, November, the very beginning of November, my mother said to me like, oh, I'm having like these episodes and I'm forgetting things. And by the end of November, what is Thanksgiving in the United States, my mother was sitting at my table after having brain surgery, finding out that she had cancer, and she was dead, 6 months later. And so this begins a cycle for me of facing that. Here in the United States, we are about to jump into like just the big party, right? Like it goes from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas. And so it's all about family. And I am reminded every year of my mother's death. And I'm also reminded of the fact that she has passed her mantle on to me and what it means for me to be the matriarch of our family. What does that mean for me? And so it's very deep. So I deal with those issues every year. And if you've ever lost a parent or someone that you love deeply, you know that every year is different. Another layer comes up. It means something more. You look at it from a different angle. I really believe that we spiral upward in life. And as we spiral upward, we look down on our issues from a different angle, from a different vantage point. And it becomes something different because we are someone different. And so that brings me to my ancestors. This is really a time for me of my ancestors. I think about my grandmother because a lot of the crafts that I'll be doing this time of year, I learned from my grandmother, not my mom. My mom wasn't crafty. My grandmother was crafty. And so I think about her and the time I spent with her and what she gave to me. I think of my great grandmother who was, an entertainer and entertaining in the home. She was like the perfect 1950s housewife, right? So I think of her and what she gave to me. And I think of the other women in my line. And I also try to tap into the wisdom that is, or I guess I'm trying. This is the thing that I've really been doing in recent months, last year, and this year I really intend to dive into, is tapping into the wisdom of those who I share ancestry with that are before the patriarchy took over. So I'm attempting to tap into the energies of a goddess-driven society, a society driven by nature and the fear and awe and reverence and wonder towards the goddess and the provision and just an entire world that I can't even really fathom, but I want to feel it in my body. And I think that the Samhain season is a time to really feel in our body. It's about felt senses. These are what they call felt senses in psychology, where you've got a feeling, you can't put your finger on it, but you feel it in your body and you know it. And so that is what I more and more am trying to tap into in my journey time, my divinations, my workings, and my natural magic is the same. I really want to be tapping into what naturally wants to arise out of my lineage, out of the power that runs through me and in all things, the Awen, as they say in Druidry. Yeah, the Awen that brings us to the creative cauldron of our own special resonance here, our own magic, my own magic. I'm trying to tap into that and allow that to come through my family line to me so that I can be that, so that I can understand that, I can shine that, I can share that, and I can love that about myself, hopefully sewing that into the fabric of our existence right now and bringing the collective consciousness back over to a place of the divine feminine, really being honored, exalted, and relished in our society. So I'm super curious, if you're still listening at this point, which I think is about 17 minutes in, I want to know, are you doing shadow work this time of year? Like, what kind of things are coming up for you? Do you see Samhain season as that time of the year where it's the spiritual cleaning time? It's the spiritual self-care time. And even in some areas of my life, I know as I go into this season that I am going to be like in spiritual hospitalization. Like I need some surgery in some of the areas within myself. And as I get older, I'm just so dang sick of the fear of being myself, of my own power, feeling like I'm not enough, like I have to qualify more. I just am so ditching that. And so for me, I really want to excise that from my life as much as possible. And I know this year that I am facing some really big things that go way back into my childhood that I plan on doing some surgery on. And that's going to take some deep healing and recovery, but I'm ready for it. I'm really ready this Samhain season and Yule and Imbolc season to go through that. I think Samhain will be kind of the gathering of information, the searching out. I think Yuletide season I'll probably do some of that surgery, and then it'll be a time of recovery, and then there'll be renewal in Imbolc season for me. And I can really feel that coming this year, that this is a big shift. And I know there's a lot of planetary shifts out there. I'm not an astrologer. I'm like a amateur astrologer, but there's some big things that have ended. Like Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and it's been in Capricorn for 16 years. I have 2 cardinal planets I have 2 cardinal planets in my big 3, which means I've really been feeling it. And I was sharing with an astrologer friend recently, I feel like I've been going through a rock tumbler for the last 16 years. And I'm really hoping that I come out shiny, because it's been a little rough. It's been rough what I've gone through. I lost my mother during that time. I got married. Just a lot of change. I took on a step family, which was very tumultuous for a while. Just so many things that called me. I took a new career. I used to be a teacher and an artist. I moved over to doing office work and doing this and being a full-time tarot reader and working the farm. So just lots and lots of changes. But I've got an Aries sun and a Sag moon, so I love change. I absolutely love change. But still, I feel like it's this space for me where this year in particular, and, I guess moving on to is Samhain the new year? For me, Samhain is the spiritual new year. And then I do the Gregorian calendar new year is my outward world new year. And a quick plug here, I just want to say that I'm going to be doing a class, and it may be just free. Honestly, it may just be a free workshop that I do where we get together and it's different than intentions. It's divination for the year. So if you're not on my mailing list, get on my mailing list. You want to be doing that. You want to be on my mailing list. And there's a link down below for that. But yeah, so Samhain is the spiritual new year for me. This is when I'm ready to go within, die, and be reborn. This is the time when I look at my spiritual well-being and figure out what the heck needs to change, how far I've come. And with that, I want to say, I hope that you'll spend some time this Samhain season appreciating how far you've come in certain areas, allowing yourself to recognize how beautiful you are, how powerful you are, how much work you've done to become powerful, how liberated you've become, and really pat yourself on the back. Really give yourself that permission to revel in what you are instead of what you are not. I think we live in this society that's constantly telling us to be more, do more, do more. And just taking the time to be okay with where we're at is a real gift that you can give to your soul that allows you to exhale and rest and then be ready to do whatever's next on the docket for you, right? Because there's always a next. Change is constant. This year's Samhain, well, I live out in the country, so there won't be any trick-or-treaters here. The decorations that I do are just enough to allow me to shift into this season and honor it and have fun with it. I used to have so much stuff when my kids were little, but I don't do that now. Yule, on the other hand, that's just absolutely ridiculous. I think I have like 12 boxes of stuff that I pull out for that. But, I will cook and I will enjoy myself during this time. And I will make this a space where I consciously recognize the doorway that I'm stepping through and the invitation by what is on the other side of the veil to engage in a way that's deeply meaningful and grows me in my power and my ability to be a more powerful magical practitioner. Because this time of the year really does that for me, really helps me to pump up my power, reground, get rid of the garbage, and up my game. So let me know what you do for Samhain. What does Samhain mean for you? What will you be doing during this time? Give me a comment down below. And if you made it all the way to the end, do me a favor and leave me some leaf emojis down below, as well as a comment on maybe what this has meant and anything else you might want me to talk about on my channel. I'd love to hear what kind of videos you want.